Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today's topic is pollination. What is pollination? Pollination is a method where pollen grains are picked from another, which is the male part of the flower, and transferred to the flower's female part called the stigma. To make the pollination work successfully, the pollen grains must be transferred from the same species of flower. Process. The process of pollination begins when the pollen grains from the respective flower lands on the stigma and form a pollen tube with a style length, which connects both the stigma and the ovary. After the completion of the pollen tube, the pollen grain starts transmitting sperm cells from the grain to the ovary. Later, the process of fertilization in plants will take place when the sperm cell will reach the ovary and egg cells. The seed is then released from the parent plant and making it able to grow into a plant and continue the reproductive cycle with the use of the pollination method. Types of pollination. Number 1, type 1 self-pollination, and type 2 cross-pollination. Self-pollination. It is referred to as the primary type of pollination as it includes a single flower. Self-pollination occurs when pollen grains fall directly from another into the stigma of flower. This process is quite simple and fast, which leads to a reduction in genetic diversity as the sperm and egg cells of the flower share some genetic information. Advantages and disadvantages of self-pollination. Advantages. Self-pollination ensures that recessive characteristics are eliminated. The wastage of the pollen grain is very less compared to cross-pollination. In the process of self-pollination, the purity of the race is maintained as there is no diversity in the genes. In self-pollination, there is no involvement of external factors like wind, water, and other pollinating agents. Self-pollination ensures that even a smaller quantity of produced pollen grains from plant have a good success rate in pollination. Disadvantages. The major disadvantages of self-pollination is there is no mixing up of genes due to the vigor and vitality of the race are reduced. The immunity of disease is reduced in the result offsprings. Cross-pollination. It refers to a complex type of pollination that allows the transfer of pollen grains from another to the flower into the stigma of another flower. This method leads to an increase in genetic diversity as different flowers will share and combine their genetic information to create unique offsprings. Types of cross-pollination. There are 3 types of cross-pollination. Type 1, pollination by wind, that is called anemophily. Type 2, pollination by animals, that is called zoophily. And type 3, artificial pollination, that is called anthropophily. Pollination by wind, that is called anemophily. There are only a few flowers that use wind pollination and their features are greenish, small and odorless flowers. As those flowers do not attract the pollinators, their energy is not used to making colorful petals. This type of pollination usually occurs when plants lack flowers with nectar and other features including inconspicuous. The male part of the Anemophilous flowers tend to produce very large quantities of pollen and the stigma, and female reproductive part of the flower are very large, sticky and feathery to extend completely outside the flower. Pollination by animals, that is called zoophily. Animals play an important role in plant reproduction. They help in seed dispersal. When an animal eats the fruit of the plant, they move to a different location. This movement helps in spreading the seeds, and with this, we get new plants to new location. Artificial pollination. Anthropophily. Artificial pollination is done by human beings. This process is also called as the anthropophily. If there are any difficulties in the pollination process through abiotic or biotic agent, the artificial method of pollination is performed by spreading pollen grains over the female flowers. Hybridization techniques are also used in this process. Advantages and disadvantages of cross pollination. Advantages: the produced seeds are good in vigor and vitality. All unsexual plants can produce through the process of cross pollination. The recessive characteristics in the lineage are eliminated as a result of genetic recombination. This process improves the immunity of the offspring towards the disease and other environmental factors. Cross pollination introduces new genes into a sequence of species, and this is mainly due to the fertilization between genetically different gametes. Disadvantages: in this process, there is a great wastage of pollen grains due to genetic recombination during meiosis.